Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, finish.
We were in this like gray area, and then I asked, I'm like, what are we doing? Are we single? Are we together? How would you describe it? And he was just like, you know what? I need time to process what happened on the show, and I don't think I could be in a relationship right now. So naturally.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Listen, we're talking to you guys about JR and the Ultimatum. I'm really looking forward to doing this video because I think it's important to talk about JR, right? There are a lot of behaviors from JR that I think on the show show that he was manipulative. And look, I'm going to be very honest and very frank. I actually think he tells a lot of truth. And it wasn't until the reunion and not even the reunion, sorry, the conversation about Sandy when he did a changeover that he actually became a problem. Before then, he wasn't much so. But once he had a changeover and spoke to Zaina and lied about actually how many kisses he had, that's the moment the manipulation actually really began to take place with JR. He has to be accountable because he's trying to play a role where almost as if, you know, I did it, so let it go. And it's like, it's not that way. You lied, you waited a whole year, and you weren't honest with the other party, right? Number two, you also were not forthcoming about your connection with Sandy. And in fact, we're going to talk about this because he's actually much deeper with Sandy than I think he's even willing to admit because he was afraid of being rejected by her. I think another aspect with JR is that while he does tell the truth, this clip right there we just played highlights exactly what JR is. He's a gray man. He's a gray man that likes to play in the gray area. And look, when somebody wants to play in the gray area that much, it's a part of their manipulation. I know because I was one of those people. Love the gray area. Why? Because you have to be accountable. It's not on me. It's you. But that's a part of the manipulation. If it's gray and you decide to make it and you don't make it black and white, that's on you. It's not me. You have to make it black and white. My job is to make it as gray as possible. And if you ask me, I'm going to keep on deflecting away from the actual answer until you get the hint in your head. But I'm going to take advantage as long as I can. But that's manipulation. That's dark traits. And that's where you have to be accountable. Because when we're talking about accountability, what we really mean is coming to a place of being in a healthy relationship. These behaviors that JR exhibits are not healthy. And so we're going to break down a lot of these behaviors because I think it might help a few people, especially the men who watch this, who may have engaged in such behaviors either in the past or present, or even doing it in the future. Hopefully you can learn from this, especially if you're a man, but women can learn from this too. So let's break this down. Make sure you guys, if you're new here, you like it, you share, you subscribe to the channel as well. We love to break things down and make it plain for you guys. We're going to drop a little intro, and then we're going to get into this particular video. Let's go.
You know what time it is.
Deeper. All right, let's get deep in this situation because I first want to talk about the fact that, you know, with JR, I feel like with him, you know, he is a gray man, right? We'll play that clip again once more just to be able to highlight what I mean by this gray man aspect, because he dabbles in the area of uncertainty in order to continue the relationship as long as possible. And that's where I talked about Zaina in the first video, where she needs to be accountable because she was unwilling to make it black and white because she knew that if she made it black and white, what would happen? She would have to make a choice. But for him, the manipulation is if I keep you in the gray, then you will always have a little bit of hope that it can turn black and white. And that's what keeps you there hanging on.
We together, how would you describe it? And he was just like, you know what? I need time to process what happened on the show, and I don't think I could be in a relationship right now. So naturally, I was really confused, and he refused to give me any type of closure.
What he didn't do is not closure. What he didn't do is he didn't make it black and white. He didn't make it plain that he doesn't want you anymore. That's a part of the manipulation. I don't have to say it, right? And what's going to happen at the end is like saying, if you ask me, is the sky blue? And I say to you, I mean, it could be. You know what I mean? Like, I'm leaving it open for your interpretation. The reason being is when you interpret it, it's now on you. The onus is now on you. And JR lives in that space. In fact, we saw that several times. In fact, we saw that with Nick and himself when Nick asked him a very direct question. Did you sleep with Sandy, my partner, right? And he ended up saying, what does sleep actually mean? I'll play that clip for you.
What's going on between me and say that we have a real connection?
Does that mean you're sleeping together?
Look in the same bed? Yeah. I mean, everyone's doing that, right?
And now, obviously, he's very, very clever with his answer right there. He knows precisely what the question was. The question was specifically, are you sleeping with Sandy? And he says, well, we're sleeping in the same bed, right? He weaponizes incompetence, number one, but two, he deflects like a politician. He knows exactly what question was being asked and doesn't want to answer it. If he wasn't sleeping with Sandy, he could easily say no, which is how people get caught out, because you can't answer the question directly. Right. And so this is where he lives. He lives in that gray area, because in the gray area, many possibilities are capable as an outcome, which means he can't be nailed down. But as somebody who knows manipulation, it's the fact that you have that many possibilities in the gray area that is the manipulation that we can call out. That's where he needs to be accountable. But let's look at some other aspects of JR's behavior, because I think some of the biggest issues that we have with JR is, like I said, he lives in a gray area, but he also as well, before the show actually began, and this is based on an interview that Zaina did, she actually let us know that he didn't want no boundaries before they went onto the show. Right now, of course, Zaina's the one that pulled him onto the show, but as his stipulation, he didn't want boundaries. Now, I think that's really important. I say that's really important because what that means, he set himself up for a particular position to play, because we heard him speak earlier on in the conversation with Micah about what he was coming on the show to be like.
I watched none of the seasons.
I like season 1 though, like Jake, Zay, Randall. They were so like, I'm trying to be on that vibe for 2 weeks. I got a whole test.
Oh wow. Oh my.
So he actually ended up saying, you know, he's got the whole pass, right? No one else said it. He said it, and those words came out of his mouth. But what specifically was actually a focus point for me was him talking to Micah and talking about, have you watched other seasons? So he's not dumb. He just knows the game that he's playing, and intentionally played it that way because he wants to be able to portray a certain character. Okay. And that's for JR again, once more. Again, there was other things with him. He minimalized particular aspects. And in fact, if we go a little bit further back, which we'll play a clip again, he actually minimalized. Well, as soon as I minimize, he feigns you know, the understanding of what does that actually mean. Again, we're gonna play a clip.
Like, who the hell knows what could happen in 3 weeks? I can get you pregnant or something.
Oh my god.
There is a rumor going around saying I'm here for all deaths. What does that mean? It's cameras everywhere, so it should be interesting to see what comes out.
Now, again, you hear him say, obviously, there's rumors going around that I'm here for a hall pass. What does that mean? You know exactly what it means. You said it. Right? You know exactly what it means. You said it. And we are of a certain ilk of intelligence. We know what a hall pass means. And so, again, he weaponizes his own incompetence in order to make it seem like he doesn't know what's happening or what he's doing. It's actually a very manipulative tactic to do, again, once more. Right? And so we're seeing a lot of these behaviors. And because we didn't get the full depth of his background, right? We understood that he came from a church background. We know that he got cheated on by his ex-wife as well, supposedly. And obviously, we know that, you know, that for him in his relationship, or as I say, growing up or whatever, there was poverty in the background. So we know those things. So the aspect of that manipulation has an origin in the sense of people that grow up in very chaotic backgrounds, chaotic environments, okay, tend to learn how to move passively aggressively in order to get around a certain situation. So they can move aggressively or sometimes passive aggressively. They learn these skills in terms of survival tools. Just because we understand it doesn't mean I'm going to give them a pass. What we're saying is explaining the behavior. So we learn these survival tools because it helps us to be able to move around the environment without it actually having too much of an adverse effect on us. Sometimes children do this too when they want their wants and needs being met. They can't get them met through a parent, so they actually outsource those needs and wants being met through other people. I.e., when you get to an adult stage in adult relationships, instead of saying, hey, you know, I like for you to tell me that you know, to reassure me, you are afraid of saying reassure me because you're afraid of the vulnerability. You might end up doing some behavior to get them to reassure you that they actually care about you, flirting with somebody else, lying, deceiving, whatever, because you want them to say, I really care about you, want you. And it seems counterproductive, but it's actually a part of the survival mechanism of tools. And that's why a lot of times manipulations doesn't actually work in very healthy relationships, because people that are healthy tend to communicate what they actually feel and what they think and what they want and what they need. They're able to assess what boundaries are, what their wants and needs are. They're able to vocalize these things because they're not afraid that even if the person isn't able to meet them, they're not afraid to say it because they're not afraid of the rejection, the abandonment, or the betrayal. That doesn't mean they're not afraid. It means they have courage in those moments. They're able to understand that the vulnerability isn't going to kill them. JR isn't there yet. And so he's using manipulative tactics to be in a situation. Because also, honestly and really and truly, until he came on the show, we wouldn't have known his behavior. And you know, until actually after specifically after Sandy as well, that's when we really start to see the manipulation. Because had he come on the show, said no boundaries, did what he did with Sandy, told the truth that, you know, he kissed Sandy, actually, he might not have been wrong. Had he come on the reunion and said, you know what, I take accountability, it was my fault. There were some parts that were my fault, some parts that were your fault. I told you the truth, but I take accountability that I shouldn't have accepted your gifts. I shouldn't have gone to your dinners. I shouldn't have gone to this. I shouldn't have gone to that. Then there would be no leg to stand on. We'd all have to leave JR alone. But JR didn't want to do that. Because you see, JR didn't want to take accountability. JR didn't want to be blamed. But really and truly, the issue was with him. The fault was with him. So let's go a little bit deeper again. I want to go backwards and explain maybe some more things that I saw with JR in terms of the minimalization. Let's go back to the conversation with Sandy.
I understand. I'm sorry that you had to find out that way.
I just thought that because I knew you so well and like how committed you are to me, like that wouldn't even be an option. Was there like anything else that happened between y'all?
We kissed twice.
Well, let's pause it right there, because first and foremost, we know they didn't kiss twice. They kissed more than twice on camera, which means you probably kissed more times behind the camera. Okay. Like he told us on the show in the reunion, you know, hall passed, but then he also said the cameras are not in the bedrooms. He knew that. So him being even aware of that tells us that there's probably more things that he actually did. And the fact that him and Sandy committed to a lie about we kissed twice, knowing that they kissed more than twice on camera, tells us that these people are willing to collude. Now, let's stick with JR. This minimalization, this level of deflection, this level of lying, because it is lying, is a problem, because it distorts the reality of the other individual. They want to believe, they want to have faith in you. As you heard her say, I didn't think this is something you would actually do. Now, Zaina has to take accountability for that, because maybe you know that 24 hours before the show, he was flirting with somebody else. So to think that he wouldn't do that, crazy. But, you know, because of how committed he wasn't committed. And that's the issue. JR isn't committed to her. All right. Because like she said herself, the past year and a bit, he actually has not been involved in a relationship. He's been actually drifting away. So you know this already. But going back to JR and him being accountable, I want you to watch something. I want you to pay attention to his body language. What is he doing with Zaina? And the reason I'm pointing this out, because he actually does it a little bit later on at a dinner. And I remember when he did it at the time, and I didn't believe it. I didn't like what he was doing, because I said, even you don't believe what you're doing. Watch the body language.
Make out or pet?
Just like little kiss. The second time she came on to me. Like,
So she initiated that kiss?
she leaned in.
And how long did it last?
It was a while ago.
Now, if you notice what he was doing here, first of all, he's lying, but two, his actual hand was on her shoulder, rubbing her shoulder, trying to give her the appearance and physicality of reassurance. Meanwhile, knowing he was lying. Knowing that he actually had kissed Sandy more than twice, it wasn't just a simple peck, and he caught feelings. So the kiss is not even a peck, because actually it means more, because he caught feelings, right? But this level of delusion that he's also operating in, trying to rewrite history and be a revisionist of history, is also manipulative, because actually he doesn't give her the opportunity to have a full picture of what was actually encountering on the other side. And so a whole year passes on the reunion, and only then does she get to see actually what really happened. So for a whole year, he's minimalizing his behavior, right? For a whole year, right? Let's play a little bit more.
Interesting. So did anything happen behind closed doors?
Oh, we cuddled.
So y'all cuddled every night?
Definitely not every night. So will that ruin everything?
Notice the body language here. Sorry, I was going to grab some water. Notice the body language. What's he doing? Shifting his body away. He no longer can look at her, right? Of course, he probably, feels bad about what he did. Most of us don't feel bad, and we do feel bad, but most of us feel more worse, because we're making you feeling bad makes us feel bad. That's the honest, real truth, right? It's not about you feeling bad. It's more about you feeling bad makes me feel bad. It makes me feel guilty. But you notice that his body language has shifted. Okay.
I'm feeling the way I feel, but I can't hold you accountable. We are broken up.
I don't know what else to say. Like, I apologized. It happened.
Now we've got to pause it here. Why does he need to apologize? Remember, he was broken up, right? Remember what he said in the beginning. He said, listen, I broke up with you. I was single. I could do what I need to do. And so why is he apologizing? Right? He did nothing wrong, surely. Right? but he knows he's done something wrong because he's lying to her right now. Well, and most people lie because they feel like, you know what, they want to get away with a crime or get away with something, but also because sometimes they feel like, you know what, maybe you can't handle the truth, which really is a projection, is that they wouldn't want to hear the truth like that, right? They know how they will feel if you told them the truth. And so they don't tell the truth in that moment. And it's funny because, again, like himself, he knows it's going to come out later on, right? But the reality of the situation is he isn't committed to her in that way. Let's listen a bit more.
We kissed twice.
So-
We call feelings. It's part of the experience.
Do you have feelings for Sandy? Do you currently have feelings for Sandy right now?
Broke up. It's over.
So the question is very direct. Do you have feelings for Sandy, right? Because he mentioned about being caught up, having feelings. So the kiss wasn't a kiss because you got caught up in her feelings, my boy. And then obviously he says, obviously, you know, she asked him a direct question. Do you have feelings for Sandy right now? And he took a moment or two. It might be the camera. We're not sure. Might be the editing. And then he said, no, we broke up. It's over. How? You caught feelings. So how can it be over? No, you caught feelings. It doesn't just evaporate, right? That's the problem. Now, if you're in a real relationship and your partner told you I caught feelings with somebody else, you're going to need some time to adjust. It ain't going to be a quick second thing. You know what I'm saying to you?
She's an amazing woman. Like, we had a good ride. Am I leaving here with her? Probably not.
Am I going to leave here with her? Probably not. He was feeding her the truth through a medium of maybes, possibilities, but actually he was telling the truth. He didn't want to be Zaina no more. This is why I said that he was never going to marry Zaina. And so these comments here, you know, about, oh, was I gonna leave her with Sandy? Maybe. Why are you telling her that? If you're so sure it's Zaina, why are you telling her that?
Probably not. Do you want to be with Sandy?
And that's the real question. Does he want to be with Sandy? We'll do a part 2 of that because I think he does actually want to be Sandy, or at least he wants to be someone like Sandy as well, right? And so there's a whole video I need to do about that because something actually happened in that situation, which is very unique to their situation. So let's go a little bit deeper because obviously he talks about the reassurance, right? I want to show you another clip where he gave it a reassurance, but again, I could see his body language. He wasn't assured.
What?
Can't love my baby.
Yes. I'm loving you back.
I can't lie to you. Listen, it's annoying to watch because you know he's not being true. And I remember I watched that episode before the reunion dropped, so I already knew. In my head, I said the way he's even rubbing her shoulder, it doesn't even give natural. It's like he wants to try and reassure her when he's not reassured. And so this actual rubbing of her shoulder comes actually just before a conversation where he tells her he feels that she loves him more than he loves her. And I said, oh snap. So now we already know, again, we're getting more evidence that he's not committed to her like that. He feels that she's more committed to him than he's committed to her, which tells us he was never going to marry her. I know he might think that to himself, like, hey, it was a possibility. Yeah, a very slim one, because really and truly, somebody who's really committed to you and wants to love you and wants to marry you, this is not the behavior. This is not the behavior. I can say that now. This ain't the behavior. Okay, all right. And the fact that he was drifting before the relationship it got onto the TV tells us everything we need to know. But let's go back to that clip where he talks about,
do I love her as much as she loves me? Because I'm not there.
So do you feel like because I'm ready to take next steps and you're not, that means you love me less?
Less than you love me.
Yeah.
Because you're ready to I'm ready to jump into this and do life with you.
now, I think it's very clear. When you say someone loves you less or loves you more, it's got nothing to do with the commitment, right? Let's say, like, for instance, you want to commit. You're saying that you love the person, but you know what? There's some things that you need to question as to why. There's some things you need to question before you can get married. That's not about you loving them less. I think the words he chose were actually on purpose. Remember, he weaponizes incompetence, right? So he's not a fool. He's a very smart man. He knew what he was saying in that moment. You love me too much. And we know that to be true because by the end of the reunion, Zaina was hanging on, even though the brother was playing around and not being straightforward. So we know that him saying that, you know, she loves her more than he does is precisely why, obviously, maybe he feels turned off, right? But also at the same time, he may have some other trauma behind it. Whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. He's made it very clear once more again that she is not the one. that he feels that she loves him more than her, and that she's chasing him, and that's not where he wants to be. In fact, she even highlights this.
So I'm like, man,
That means you still have questions
it's a
about
lot.
me.
Like, just not ready to jump in right now. You know.
Right now, we're off in our timelines. We're not on the same page with that.
Yeah.
But if you question that I love you more than me, then that's a problem, like a fundamental problem in the relationship. I don't.
It really is a fundamental problem in a relationship, and it's very different to being about, I'm not ready to marry right now. That means you have genuine questions that you want to say, but he doesn't say it. And that's where we're going to come back to JR being accountable. He isn't accountable because he's not able to determine and vocalize what his actual needs are. Do you know how I know this? Because Sandy is somebody who reads minds. I spoke about this in another video about being a fearful avoidant. I said Sandy is somebody who reads minds, and she's willing to ask questions. So when I do part 2, I'll break this down more. What Sandy did to JR, he got hit with something that he's not been hit before. This is why he actually was feeling Sandy so much. Sandy hit him with something he's not been hit before. And so her wanting to know about him, wanting to really explore and get to understand him, he never felt that with Zaina. In fact, Zaina tells us herself, oh, I want to get to know you and know you better. You know, I didn't know about your background. You didn't know about his background. You've been in for 3 years. You didn't know about his childhood, sis. And Sandy found that out within a first session of knowing him. Yeah, tells us where Zaina was, and it also tells us where Sandy was in terms of being interested in him. And actually, he actually tells us this through the clips as well, saying how Sandy really was trying to get to know him very, very well. And I can't wait to break that video down for you guys. But I want to stay on this path here. Let's play a bit more of this clip here.
I don't ever want to feel like I'm chasing a man. It should be a mutual thing.
Absolutely.
So,
do you feel like you're chasing me or vice versa?
Sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I had to chase you to bring you here.
I thought things were going well.
Things were going well. We hit a glass ceiling. I don't want to be a girlfriend forever.
So again, once more, she says obviously she feels like she's chasing him, and again he says, "Oh, really? Yeah, you said that you feel like she loves you more than you love her, so it's not mutual. So she is chasing you. Like again, it's not very difficult, but again, he's weaponizing the incompetence again. He's trying to make it plain, but it's like each time he does this, it becomes more manipulation. And I don't know how much awareness of everything that he does is very much intentional, but I think a lot of it is, if I'm honest with you. Most of us who have manipulative tendencies very much are aware of our manipulation at this.
In a way that I was not expecting. Like, I didn't know if you were going to be this open with me or vulnerable.
I was leaving with Sandy.
No, never.
If you are in a relationship, you think making a joke about you thought I was going to leave with Sandy is going to be appropriate at this point in time when she's explaining about how, Sandy's, helped you grow, and the fact that you and Sandy kissed as well. Yeah, you know what? Your brother's not serious, okay? The brother isn't serious, and he was looking for a way out. And I thought I might add that clip because I thought it was important to kind of show you guys that. And I think when we go later on, this also is a part of the issues that I feel with JR are happening, is that he avoids very difficult conversations and doesn't communicate.
Help me just kind of like understand you more in relation to like us and a future.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like, we were at a standstill, and I was avoiding having those uncomfortable conversations back home. And I'm glad that you pushed to go through this experience.
So what he's actually describing is that she actually mentions as a context. She says, talking about your past traumas, talking about some of the past issues that you've had, you weren't really forthcoming, right? But, on this experience you have through the fact that, the trial marriages. And he says, yeah, you know what? I wasn't as forthcoming, wasn't as open. Why is that? Because just like Sandy, he is somebody who's also passive aggressive, maybe with his actual wants and needs. Now, he may say some of the other ones, but there's a lot of deeper, latent emotional needs that he has not been able to articulate clearly to Zaina. And probably in a past relationship too. This is why it led to certain relationships and the way that they played a role. What I've learned with people and coaching clients is that when people don't know how to voice their actual feelings and voice what their actual wants and needs are, they tend to end up in these relationships where they play a particular role. And actually, it doesn't help anybody when you are unable to say what you want and what you need. In fact, it leads to more passive aggressiveness. It leads to people trying to read minds. It leads to unsaid expectations that oftentimes get dashed to the ground. And so it doesn't help foster healthy relationships. Okay. And so these are things that JR has to be accountable for Because I wonder if he did any reflection on the reason why his ex-partner cheated. Why did she cheat? I will say everything must be taken into account. Even if somebody cheats on you, you must go backwards. What is it? What's the issue? Why is it? What was happening at the time? There's a need to go back and revise that history, man or woman. Revise that history. What was going on at the time? Did I miss something? Was I not doing something? What was that the need or the want of the person? Of course, the person cheating is on them. They have to be accountable for them cheating. But I'm saying that there are reasons. And so, what was a reason? Is it that you weren't communicating? Is it that you weren't very open and vulnerable? Is it that you weren't able to express yourself? Because I want to end on this last clip, right, which I think is very vital between him and Sandy. Listen to this.
I'm gonna talk to you personally and be like, were we just playing house or was it really something there?
Don't question
Was
it.
it genuine or was it just fake energy?
No. Oh my God. You know that it's all very genuine and
Yeah.
Now, why? If you notice his head movements, the eyes, it's telling you that was real questioning. He was really trying to find out whether she really cared for him or not, because she did something that hasn't been done to him before, which is that she actually took a genuine interest in JR. Remember, his background is that he grew up in a household of poverty amongst 7 kids or whatever, and so more than likely he was not seen nor heard. And so what Sandy did is that she made him be seen and heard, and that cannot be bought. And that's something that Zaina wasn't necessarily doing. And so I think what he encountered with Sandy is something he's never encountered before, and it threw him all the way off. But that doesn't mean that he should now be unaccountable in the lying, the manipulation, the minimalizing, the revising of history, not understanding why Zaina might be frustrated with his behaviors and trying to play it off as if it's just get over it. That's not what's supposed to happen. So JR needs to be accountable for those things, because if he doesn't change those things, his relationships will always fall into a similar pattern each and every time, because the person you actually choose is a mirror of who you are. See, we think that we're better than we usually are, but you haven't done the work. You don't communicate. You don't know how to say your wants and needs. You're not honest with your boundaries. And so you meet somebody who's at the level that you're actually at, and then you complain because you're like, that's not what I actually wanted. Yeah, well, that's the level you're at. And that's what's going to happen to JR each time if he does not learn that he needs to be able to communicate, say how he really feels. I think he really wanted to be Sandy, if I'm honest with you, but that's another video for another time. I want to end on this. JR, to be accountable, is to start being honest with the vulnerability. People tend to lie, manipulate, gaslight, all those things because they're afraid of the vulnerability. And so what ends up happening is that they actually tend to try and mask those vulnerabilities and weaknesses by being strong in their manipulation, by being underhanded and trying to cover themselves. But in reality, all it does is expose how really weak you actually are, because true strength is in the vulnerability that you share. I'm going to leave it there. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. If you love this video, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts down below as well in the comment section, because it's always good to hear your thoughts as well. And until next time, make sure you like, share, subscribe again. And remember, little black book, you know what time it is.
Little black book, you know what time it is.